Welcome again to the news roundup from Roll for Crit, where I tell you everything that's been happening in the last week in the world of tabletop gaming, be it RPGs, board games, or card games. We've got a lot of stories for this week, so let's get right to it for the week of March 11th, 2024. Our first story is about a one-shot RPG released by NASA. Yes, the spacefaring NASA. Designed by Christina Michelle, you will be tasked with traveling to Aldestron because on our world, apparently some researchers and the Hubble Space Telescope have disappeared from Earth's timeline. So you're basically going into this alternate world reality. Some have described it as an isekai in essence, in order to find out what's going on. This still has magic, but plenty of the names and world will have a strong influence on astronomy and other branches of science. This is definitely interesting because at least I don't think of NASA when I'm thinking of where to get my next itch for an RPG. But it's interesting because it's just showing a trend more, I think. It's just not unique of using RPGs as advertising, maybe not the right word in this case, but just awareness of your company, or in this case, government. This isn't the first time. I can't remember. I think it was Wendy's, may have been Burger King, that released their own RPG. Of course, it's going to be a different one now that I've said those two. As well as selling dice. I think because Dungeons and Dragons has entered enough of the public zeitgeist, it's become a great way for you to just get eyeballs on your brand in this case. And as a free one-shot, that's not a terrible proposition. Yes, it's arguably, like I said, you could consider this some form of advertising, but honestly, it's free. So you try it out, you can laugh, usually probably more on the product ones, especially fast food things. This one, on the other hand, I do think it sounds just a bit more, actually a bit more like a passion project that got turned into something to be useful for NASA rather than a item designed specifically just to say, hey, we're here. Or I guess maybe more in this case, hey, let's educate you. Yes, I know it's heavily inspired, and I'm sure there's going to be, if you're very interested into the sciences, lots of references and names of characters, towns, locations. But I imagine that's going to be more of the thing that's going to just add to the world rather than make you feel like you don't know anything or can't participate if you don't know what these things are. This sounds like a silly, fun one-shot, and it's designed for 4 to 7 people and lasts about 4 hours. We'll see depending on your group. Now, it is very puzzle and dialogue heavy, supposedly, so I don't think it's maybe the best if you're looking to just be the barbarian who constantly rages. But it sounds like there is enough there, as well as maybe just a new, different take on what you're maybe used to in your RPG games. And once again, free to download, so definitely worth taking a look at. Speaking of which, our next story is also about RPGs, and in particular, may get you some money. If you have ever thought of or already have designed a world or RPG setting, then this may be one that's important for you. Chaosium, known for their Call of Cthulhu RPG series, has announced a new contest titled the Basic Role-Playing Universe Game Engine Design Challenge, or the BRP Design Challenge. This is a contest to see what kinds of worlds you can build with their basic Chaosium system. Using their basic system, you can submit your own world, as well as probably extra spells, rules that fit into the world, as well as the budgeting cost of how it would work out. So you're almost doing a business plan in addition to designing your world. The idea here is to see new designers who also have new novel settings. By the way, before we continue, I want to mention, if you submit your product, whether you are chosen as a winner or not, Chaosium says you still hold the rights to everything. So no worry about giving away your cool idea. Maybe it's not finished up yet, so it doesn't get chosen, and you lose everything there. You still hold the rights. Now, there will be 7 people who are chosen who will get $500. Then there'll be 3 more who get $2,500. So quite a big increase for the top 3 winners. There'll also be an additional $500 awarded to one entry that's going to be sort of the player's choice, so the fan favorite. You have until May 31st to submit your project. Now, I do think this is a cool idea, in particular, the fact you retain the rights, whether you win or you submit and nothing happens. Though it is, at least my guess is, if you're one of the 10 people chosen to win, in essence, any kind of money, then I wouldn't be surprised if they start courting you for a designer job, be it if they want to add your world as basically part of the Chaosium library, or even just have you help design any of their already established lines. So For any entrepreneurial game designers, and particularly in the RPG sense, I highly recommend you take a look at this. Like I said, good cash prizes, and you retain the rights to your world. So if you don't want to go with them, or you feel like it needs some more work, you don't have to feel like you accidentally gave it all away. So definitely check out the Chaosium site for more details, and hopefully one of you will be chosen as one of the 3 big cash prize winners. This next story is interesting because I think it's very timely in essence with what we talked about last year, but I think we're going to continue to see this year in terms of reckoning of companies that make a lot of board games through Kickstarter, as well as being something I thought, well, already happened. This is about the company Ninja Division, and apparently they only just recently filed for bankruptcy. According to the notes I have here, they have a liability of, for some reason they give ranges, which I don't know if that's just for protection, but these are big ranges of $1 to $10 million, while only having assets of 0 to 100,000. Yes, they say 0 to 100. I don't know why it's the weird range. Maybe it's because so many things could or could not sell. And they have 49 creditors, which, by the way, do not include all the Kickstarter backers who help fund a lot of their projects. Many of them are way overdue. I would say even I think a lot of them over 5 years past their expected delivery date, including, for example, their Super Dungeon Explorer, which was supposed to deliver in 2015. Now, I do believe for that project, they did release files, PDF, and also files for 3D printing, so you can basically make the game at home. But I don't know if that's true for all their other Kickstarters that are still waiting to be delivered. And when I think of some other companies that were Kickstarter heavy, sometimes other people buy game lines from them, be like, okay, we're now delivering this. Maybe we need to charge you again for something, but there's hope in essence that you will still get your whatever you pledged for. In this case, as far as I can tell, that's all gone. There is no hope. I don't even know how this is going to be divvied when it comes to the bankruptcy court case. But this is just once again another company that was basically through crowdfunding. And it just shows that I don't think that is a reliable model anymore. You can have some big crowdfunding projects, but you better have another source of revenue, be it being half your games maybe go straight to retail. Maybe you also design some other kind of product or host one of the crowdfunding sites. Either way, you can't bet it all on those projects. And in this case, these problems, like I said, I thought this already happened because I remember them having issues back. I think this, like I said, the other project be delivered 2015. So 2015-16 era, if I recall correctly. Once again, I was surprised to even see this. I was like, oh, that they only declared just now. But maybe they were still hoping or looking around to find a way to either sell their games or something else with crowdfunding. But maybe with the death knell of other crowdfunding companies, they finally had to admit that there's nothing that they can do on their part. So for anyone who's backdating their projects, I mean, you probably already knew things were bad, so this is probably not anything worse than you'd expect. But hopefully we'll see what happens here, and maybe some other company picks up their game lines. We'll have to wait and see. Things don't seem to be all in well in Germany when it comes to board games, but not because board games aren't selling, but rather it seems that designers are being ripped off. According to the SAZ, which is basically the Tabletop Designers Association there, they've stated that the game publishers are ripping off designers by not giving them fair compensation, usually through nickeling and diming them through a bunch of weird extra little expenses. They stated that although the standard practice is to provide designers royalties based on the net selling price to retailers, that amount is often reduced by extra unspecified items, making the process a black box for designers. They state that some of the things that they'll use to reduce how much they need to pay include rebates, discounts, advertising cost subsidies, retail bonuses, export taxes, Del Critère insurances, commissions, transport and packaging costs, so on and so forth. So as you can see, there just seems to be adding on a lot of little things to be well, we got to reduce this a little bit here, a little bit because this, a little bit because this, a little bit of this. Now, this is where it's a little bit confusing for me in terms of law, because also from what I can tell, it could be different depending on what country you're in. But in Germany, they stated they wanted their board games to sell like books, where I think they don't look at how it sells in stores or discounts and all those things that could be added. Rather, it's what's the MSRP? It's this. You either prepay, I expect to sell 100, so we'll prepay you in advance, or if we sold X number of games, I'm going to assume it's sold at the MSRP, and that's how you get your commission. But like I said, they're really paying attention to being like, all right, well, this one was sold at discount, this or this and this, and it feels like they're not getting nearly as much as they feel they should deserve. Now, I don't know whether this is something that they've actually like brought up to a court, like this is not something that would bring them into legal issues, or rather just stating this and hoping changes will happen by bringing it to light. But it is something to keep an eye out on. Germany is definitely a very big place when it comes to board gaming, to probably no one's surprise who watches this. And I imagine anything that might happen there will be, I don't know, done, but people are going to keep an eye out on in other regions, and probably game designers, if it's in their favor, will try to see that they get the same benefits because you want to get paid for your design. That makes sense. So we'll see what happens, whether this is something that will be resolved quickly, or maybe even if this is going to come up again later this year at Essen. Time will tell. So last week, I actually talked about Maxine, Juniper, Newman leaving Fantasy Flight. She was most well known for helping co-design Arkham Horror, the card game, but of course, she's worked on plenty of stuff there. Now, she made a statement basically saying she's still going to work in board and tabletop card games and to look forward to what she has in store. And I thought this was going to be like, oh, well, we'll see in a few while. Maybe something will be announced at Gen Con or Essen. Nope, we already know. It turns out that she is now going to be a designer at Earthborne Games, working on the Earthborne Rangers card game. This is an ECG, the legal version of LCG that isn't Fantasy Flight. So she's already working on a new game. She's going to work on the newest stuff that was in their most recent GameFound project. And then afterwards, they release those items. She's going to become a lead designer. So already we're going to start seeing her influences in this new ECG. Now, I have played the original base game of Earthborne Rangers, and I really like it. I just finished the main story campaign. It is definitely an interesting take on a fun world and a lot of other fun little twists that compared to other LCGs, ECGs, especially the Arkham Horror ones, which are more standalone chapters. I'm very curious how she handles the Earthborne Ranger system and seeing what she does to add some new, fresh ideas to the system. I can totally understand why she's excited to dive into this world, especially if she spent so much time in Arkham Horror and in Madness and Darkness and Evil Elder Gods. I'm not surprised she now wants to work a game that maybe is a bit more optimistic when it comes to the world. Regardless, very excited to hear about this and definitely look forward to not only the new cards and possible mechanics that we'll see in the currently announced expansions for Earthborne Rangers, but as well as what may come in the future. Our final story is a sad one, and technically it's maybe adjacent to board games, but as with everything in nerd culture, especially now of all points, everything is intertwined, so I still feel it's important to bring up. The mangaka for Dragon Ball Z and as well as many other animes, Akira Toriyama, has passed away. As I stated earlier, he was mostly well known for the Dragon Ball series, which I think I can safely say was one of, if not the anime that helped it break out of Japan and become the worldwide phenomenon we know it as. And there, of course, have been plenty of his art styles in just series becoming board games or card games. I'm pretty sure it was just last week, actually, that I talked about the new Sandland card game from Bandai, which is another new property from him. I've seen tons of tributes, be it from people who are obviously already immersed heavily in his works, to those who just understand the impact that he brought to not just anime, but comics and cartoons in general. So whether you are the kind of person like me who is old enough to remember watching Dragon Ball when it aired on Toonami, or you're just thinking or starting to dip your toe into anime in general, I hope Dragon Ball or any of Akira's works are able to help you find new friends, a loving community, and learn more about the anime hobby, and maybe come back around to play some of those anime tabletop versions as well. And now let's talk about some of the new announcements of products you could add to your game collection. First, after quite a long time, it turns out Mage Knight isn't quite done yet. A new expansion, the Apocalypse Dragon, will be coming out at the beginning of the first quarter next year. Then, Mass Effect is getting a new board game, and no, it's not just a reskin of Risk or Monopoly. This is a cooperative campaign game designed by both the veteran Eric Lang, as well as far as I can tell, a newcomer, Calvin Wangzi Lun. As I said, cooperative campaign. You'll make choices that affect later on down the line. And for those of you who are already big Mass Effect fans, this will take place during Mass Effect 3. So no Andromeda stuff. It is planning to be released later on this year, but I imagine this is going to be something a lot of people are going to be really excited and looking forward to. And hopefully it'll be better received than the Mass Effect 3 ending. Then Smirk and Dagger had a few announcements. First, we have Hi-Fi, that's planned to be released this June. It is a game all about you playing as a band, re-recording the B-side to your last final album. And it seems to have an interesting gimmick using the box as a recorder. I wonder if that thing actually spins or if just something that looks nice. Then they have a new version of Boop the Cat game. This one is Christmas themed at Boop the Halls. And it's slated to release this September, so plenty of time to buy and have as a gift for Christmas. Then finally, This Game is Killer is actually a 3 to 10 player sort of party game in which you are all on a ship, there's an alien, and basically it's every man for himself. You want to survive, whether you're able to successfully eject the alien before a lot of people die, or maybe no one else who's with the alien when it ejects, or just last man standing, you'll have to see. Then we've got a new expansion for Unfathomable, this one titled From the Abyss. This is slated to come out also in June, this one actually June 7th to be precise this year. It's going to have new monsters, mechanics, and of course, plenty of ways for you to add fear and frustration to your Unfathomable game. Speaking of which, Arkham Horror is now also getting an RPG. The Arkham Horror, the RPG, is a new RPG set in the world of the Arkham Horror files. Yes, it is Lovecraftian. We've seen Lovecraftian RPGs before, but this will probably use the same mechanics as well as some familiar faces from those who played any of the previous Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, the card game, Unfathomable. This is looking to be released sometime in August. I would not be surprised if it's the first time you can buy it will be at Gen Con. Then we've got Ascension Legends. This is a standalone game in which you will take on the role of Legendary Warriors of Vigil. It still sounds like a deck builder. It's going to be a crowdfunded on GameFound. The preview page for it is up right now. And then finally, we have Middle Ages. This is actually comes from Marc Andre, who designed Splendor. It's a tile-laying game in which you're making your fiefdom. Keep an eye out on it after just how big Splendor is. I'm curious to see how this game plays. But that is all the news and announcements we have this week. Quite a bit. Some of it good, some of it sad, some of it weird. Let me know your thoughts on any of these stories. If there's something that really piqued your interest, whether it is just how you got into anime or if you're excited for where Earthborne Rangers may be going. I'd love to hear whatever you have to say in the comments down below. But for now, that's this week's news roundup. I'm Will, and I'll see you next week.